Ed, what do you think about the safety issue that Gwen's talking about? I mean, Donald Trump basically said, when this kind of thing happens, my poll numbers go up.
And he's right. They do. They continue to. Every time we think one of these things happens, the general consensus immediately is that he's going to drop, and instead he just climbs or sustains his popularity. It's terribly frustrating to everyone else, and it's a growing concern to Democrats. There was chatter in the last few days among congressional Democrats that the president had to come out and say something to sort of set the mood, acknowledge that this was everyone's worst fears realized, and try to move things forward. The problem is, absent anything specific, either on information from this investigation or his plans to do something, it's only going to amplify Republican attacks against him, that he continues to have no strategy, that Democrats are going to lead the country into more attacks, and absent any more aggressive military response.
And Trump succeeds because he sounds a note of toughness and strength, which is completely vague. It's sort of, it has no real seriousness behind it.
Except I kept track of how many times John asked him about whether we'd be tracking Muslims, whether this is anti-Muslim, 4 times at least. Yes. And each time he didn't answer the question. Yeah. So he is also, at the same time as projecting strength, he's also stirring up a lot of continuing to stir up a lot of unhappiness about a subset, 3 million people in this country.
See, I mean, Trump is selling attitude, not agenda, right? So tough guy on immigrants, tough guy on the press, tough guy on ISIS, whatever it takes, whoever. The problem is, at some point, Gwen, I think you're right, does it become an issue that there's no substance or there are no details behind the toughness? Right now, not yet, but eventually, probably so.
And I will say this, I was in Iowa this week with Jeb Bush and spent more time than usual asking the people who show up, why bother? And increasingly it was because I'm getting sick and tired of what I'm hearing from Donald Trump. It's not specific, it's inflammatory, it's irresponsible. The party will lose because of him. So maybe there is something brewing that will cause Republicans to start looking elsewhere.
It's not showing in the polls.
It is not showing it at all. It is not showing it. Now, polls are lagging indicators, but there was evidence this week to suggest that perhaps in the coming weeks there may be a little bit of a shift.
Well, Ben, you did interviews at the beginning of the Trump campaign, and people would say, well, by Labor Day he'll fade, and then it was by the beginning of December. Now it's after the holidays.
I will believe that Trump has peaked when he has peaked and not before. I think you actually have to see it happen before anything else occurs. That may be the point where people actually have to show up in Iowa and vote for him. But I think right now he speaks to a lot of people who are concerned that they don't trust the elites in Washington at all. They don't trust them to be able to tell good Muslims from bad. They don't trust them to be able to manage any of the crises that we've seen overseas or any of the domestic crises that they see at home. And so Trump speaks to that over and over again. And as things break down, as people become concerned, they look for outsider voices. That's the role.
Well, and when who they do trust, however, is the person when asked directly, "What would you do about this?" says, "I'll leave that to your imagination." That's an acceptable answer.
Jay,
I was just going to say, we had an interesting piece in the Journal yesterday in the Saturday paper that took a look at all the polling and tried to define who are the Trump voters, and he's created his own lane. It's not, he's singular. They're more downscale economically, they're lesser educated, they're a new kind of Republican voters, and they're not concerned about values, social conservative values. They're not even concerned about issues, they are concerned about leadership. So he's got a group of, how big that group turns out to be ultimately is hard to say, but it's not like they're going to go away to somebody else because they're there because of him.